part of a financial plan, a comprehensive financial plan for every age division, has to do with caregiving, because you may have an extended family member, maybe that's your elder parent, and then you have to think about your own self as you age. And that becomes difficult. Of course, I've myself have spoken with many groups with professionals adjacent to mine. Today, we welcome Annalee Kruger, who has actually built an entire thought process for financial advisors so they can incorporate these priorities so important to so many people. Annalee, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Jay, for having me as your guest.
So you have started, in fact, an education resource, if you will, called planforlifenow.com. I want to call it, right, as the correct URL. We'll have the link below. But why don't you describe, what was the catalyst, your inspiration for starting this?
Yeah, sure. So my other company, Care Rights Incorporated, I work with families all across the country in developing customized aging plans. When I started Care Rights in 2011, I started marketing to the FPA. So at the time I lived in Wisconsin. So I started marketing. I joined and supported the Financial Planners Association group. And so quickly I learned, with meeting with all of the financial planners, they talk about being holistic and comprehensive. And so I'm like, oh, so how are you identifying and addressing diminished capacity, or family caregiver burnout, or dementia progression, or adult kids who are not taking the job promotion, or they're using up all their FMLA because mom had another stroke and so now they've been off work for 4 months. How are you addressing all of those issues? And it was crickets. So because they aren't. And so I was like, well, how, and background, I'm a social worker, so I'm not in the financial industry at all, but I'm like, well, how can you put an ethical financial plan in place if you're not even addressing any of these true risk factors? Because as an advisor, it's your job to reduce risk to the portfolio, right? So to reduce risk and help your clients be more successful, you need to start addressing the things that take a big chunk out of their assets under management: family caregiver burnout, long-term care, adult kids who aren't contributing to their portfolio anymore because now they're helping to financially support their aging parents. So in 2015, my business partner, Bob Mouterstock, and I, he's a retired CFP and he's in Massachusetts, we locked arms, and he was also a speaker at this one FPA meeting. And so we connected and built this company, Plan for Life Now, and we created a certification program for financial advisors to become an elder planning specialist. So right now it's a 10-week online program. We used to do it as a 2.5-day live event and then just kind of bebop around the country and do that. But since I also have my other business, I'm like, I can't live out of a suitcase because,
Right.
plus I take care of my aging parents as well. So I have to be like available. So it's an online 10-week online certification program that's been approved by the National CFP Board. Last year in 2022, we partnered with the National FPA to help us co-market the Elder Planning Specialist program. So what the program consists of is each of the 10 weeks, there's 2 or 3 topics that we teach and that we cover, and then we have subject matter experts. So like I talk about family caregiver burnout and why an aging plan is critical, but every financial planner ought to be sending their clients to Care Right for aging planning, because we can help decrease the risk to the portfolio because the clients will have an aging plan. So we also teach about end of life. We teach advisors about why, if they're going to say they're going to be comprehensive and holistic, then their clients should have estate documents in order, and they should have been talking about long-term care insurance, not just a one-time conversation either, but like hand holding and making sure that everything is buttoned up as much as possible. For you, you can appreciate this because you're our Medicare specialist that I refer clients to now. a lot of advisors don't even address, are you on the right Medicare plan? And as you know, because you wear that hat along with your other financial services hats, you know that those seniors who are on the wrong Medicare plan or insurance program, it can cost them thousands of dollars out of pocket per year. And that's one other way that a true holistic financial planner would be making sure that their clients are on the right Medicare program. And if they aren't a Medicare specialist, that they should have someone like you in their network and say, hey, I've got their financial plan on track, but I need help with this whole Medicare piece because it's confusing and overwhelming and way complicated. So we teach the advisors in this 10-week program how to build their elder planning team so that they can have a
Okay.
Rolodex of people, right? So that they can have a Rolodex of people to say, hey, I've got the financial plan in place, but these 4 companies are who I'm going to introduce you to because they do what we don't. And we want you to be buttoned up with everything. We also
What's a
teach them
Rolodex?
which that's probably that's yeah, that's a good thing. So a Rolodex for your younger listeners
You thought, well, right.
is
We're
your
aging
database.
ourselves. We know what a Rolodex is here, Annalee. So,
Your database of people for the younger folks who don't remember the
right.
spinny business card. So the Rolodex is who you have in your probably now in your phone, in your contacts, or in your
Right.
CRM to refer your clients to. That could be anybody that does bill pay, realtors that because maybe Ethel needs to sell her house so that she can move into a care community. So it's building your team of elder planning specialists. We also teach because we're trying to teach the advisors how to like specialize in this, right? They're not just now a general CFP, they're actually specialized in aging matters and aging matters. And so we teach them how to market themselves, how to build their business, and how to, we provide scripts and tools and checklists for the students who go through the program on here's a script on if you're meeting with a new family. We're not your Joe Blow financial planning firm that's like everyone else. We're going to talk about, sometimes uncomfortable topics. And this is why we talk about it, because all of these uncomfortable topics, aging, caregiving, dementia, end of life, affect your portfolio. And most advisors aren't talking about these things. And that's what makes us unique and differentiate us.
So, on this topic, it's pretty interesting because a couple of weeks ago, I was in Washington for the Alliance for Lifetime Income. And there, one of the pushbacks, which actually was something new, but probably affects you as well, is the advisor community stated that one of the big challenges is one of something they called scalability, meaning that that it for a particular garden variety portfolio, and let's just call it 60-40, that's what the advisory world does, if you will. And you've got targeted dated funds, for example, as part of their portfolios. And you're not a financial person, but I'm just saying that their entire industry is built for scalability in mind. Now you're introducing something quite unique, right? Because what would you say to those advisors who have been trained in this way, right? You're breaking chains in some way,
Right. That's why the students who have gone through the program, they call themselves the pioneers because they are the pioneer in the financial industry. And if you want to scale a business, doesn't it make sense to go into the niche that's the most growing population, the aging baby boomers? It's obvious. It's so to me, it's just common sense how you can scale a business when we've got in healthcare, we call it the silver tsunami. We have all these aging baby boomers. They're going to need care. A lot of them, they didn't have large families like they did 30 years ago. So this is definitely a way, to niche down. You can definitely scale your business because you're going to be the specialist instead of just a general CFP, like in healthcare, a general practitioner. You're not going to specialize in someone. And it seems to me, in my experience, consumers are getting smarter and they want that hand holding, they want that concierge model, they want that person who specializes in what their unique situation is. I know it's older than dirt, but it's a good example. You don't go see a podiatrist if you have a heart issue, you go see a cardiologist, right? Because I'm here to tell you that working with a lot of advisors and doing trainings and just meeting with a lot of advisors in general over the last decade, the consistent themes are they're not talking about the what whens of aging. When I have my care right hat on and I'm talking to these families, directly to these families, well, who's your mom and dad's, financial planner? I don't know. Do they have a living will? I don't know. They think Medicare is going to pay for everything. And all of my clients have a financial planner. So there's just opportunity to do better. And that's what all of us should do as an advisor is do right by our clients and do better and make sure that they're making informed and educated decisions and make sure that they have, some advisors have like their own portal and stuff, but a grab and go binder, make sure that their clients have the living will and the power of attorney, that it's updated and it's actually signed and that the beneficiary forms are updated. To me, that's what a comprehensive, holistic advisor is. They're not afraid. They don't back down from uncomfortable conversations and they make sure that their clients have everything in place that they should.
So I'm fully on board. I mean, I've started, the entirety actually by folk. I don't allow, candidly speaking, that even a conversation about a financial strategy, any financial strategy, gets told to me without telling me what's your health situation, how you're dealing with healthcare cost, and what do you think it is, just so I get a gauge on how realistic from a financial point of view the client actually is. Do they have any idea of the scope, scale, risk involved financially? And then we can talk about other things because, we have lots of products. If we don't have the process, I have no problem if you have the right process, because we'll find a product. The Goldmans, the brokerages, and the Wall Street law firms, they're creative and smart enough and highly motivated. They'll be able to fit the product. That part,
Yep.
I'm very convinced.
Yep.
But now the question is that how do we get from what your perspective, right? Because we've got big wealth management practices, big, whether they be they're the actual clearinghouse themselves, the custodian, or whether or not they have big practices that work in teams. Is it your suggestion that let's say there are 30 advisors, a big practice, 30 advisors inside of a wealth management firm? Is it your thought that is it realistic for you, to be candid with you, that
I
all
don't,
30,
I would
or you
love
just have
that.
one?
I would love for every financial planning firm to say, hey, this is important. Our clients matter to us, and we want to learn how to identify and address the needs that our specific clients have. So if it's a wealth management firm that has like that 40 plus age group, those are the ones that would be the ideal candidates that would I would hope that they would want to learn how to properly put together a financial plan addressing aging, diminished capacity, caregiving. Is it realistic? No, but it would be ideal, because that tells me then that those clients that they're working with are being properly served and not being underserved because their advisor doesn't know all the ins and outs of what they should know to be able to meet the needs of that clientele that they have.
It's
So
just a thought. I mean, maybe one possible variation is that out of the large advisor practices, that one person be your point person for, your disciple, Annalee's disciple, if you will, to,
yep.
spread the word that, hey, there are these 10 different topics at the minimum, and then all the nuances within each of the 10
Yeah.
that
So
the advisor.
what most firms do is that they'll send, they'll decide to create kind of like an aging division or,
I see.
caregiver division. And so there might be 30 advisors in their firm and their RIA, but they might send 2 or 3 or 5. Right. So then we just do bulk corporate discounts for multiples of more than 2. So that's, so there's been 2 or 3 firms across the country that have been really impressive to me because they have invested, they have sent 3 or 4 or 5 advisors through our program. So that gives me the confidence that those families that those specific advisors are working with are better off than those that are working with an advisor who hasn't been through the program and who hasn't seen the value of making sure that their clients are addressed, that their needs are actually addressed properly through a true ethical financial plan of making sure that that daughter doesn't quit her job or not take her job promotion because she's taking care of aging parents. So like one of my sections of the program that I personally teach the advisors is start asking questions. You know, are you a family caregiver? Do you anticipate being a family caregiver? Is there any, I love this one. This is my favorite one. Is there anything in your personal life that's affecting your health, your well-being, your finances, and your relationship? Because if you ask that one question, you're going to get a whole slew of potential answers, right?
Sure.
So they're like, yeah, you know, my marriage is on the rocks because I have to keep flying to Arizona because dad keeps falling. He's got Parkinson's, and my husband's like not supportive of me flying anymore. And it's $1,200 per airfare ticket. And it's affecting our finances as a married couple now, you know. And so advisors, if we can get the coachable advisors and start having them have those types of relationships and those conversations with their clients, that's when you can say, you know, we have your financial plan on track, but here are resources that we're going to introduce you to that can help make sure that we're all working towards the same goal of whatever that goal is. Don't quit your job, Sally. Let's make sure you have enough supports in place for your parents. That's the aging plan that we talk about with Care Right. We also, for the elderly clients, if for those advisors that are listening, if their book of business is more like the 70, 80, 90s and 100-year-olds, you know, tell me what kind of challenges you might have during your day. What's the system you use to take your medicine? You know, are you getting to your doctor's appointments? Are you having trouble driving? You know, get more into the weeds of conversation and not just focus on how the portfolio did this last year, you know, but start developing those deeper relationships. And that's how you can scale and grow your businesses, because if you start having those deeper conversations with your clients, and if you start facilitating like a financial planning family meeting so that you can get that first or potentially that second generation. You know, if your clients are Ethel and Marvin, you want to get to know their kids, because when Ethel and Marvin die, those kids, if they don't know you, they are going to move that account. The statistics are there. So you talk about wanting to scale your business, well, then you got to do it the right way. And it's about through the relationships and doing things the right way and getting to know that second generation. Or if your clients are the daughters, Sally's and John's, asked to be introduced to their parents. You know, let's have a family meeting, and maybe you can secure that first generation of business, and that's where there could be a lot of wealth as well. So
For
so
sure.
we teach the advisors through the program like how to think relationship based and not just focused on portfolio. Like think like a human being. Like, how else can I serve you? How else can I add value? And those are the advisors that tend to go through the program. They're the ones that they want to set the bar higher than what the industry typically seems to have.
Do you get pushback, or maybe you can talk to it? Because for example, like you said, and as we know, right, the advisor community is, and not wrongfully so, I'm not saying wrongfully so, right? Their objectives are for accumulation, retention, scalability of practice. That is completely understandable from their seat.
Yep.
Now you're introducing a number of other topics, and some of those are not going to be free. Meaning, for example, you know, they may have to set aside X dollars for some other objective of which you're training them on these topics.
Right.
You get pushback, or do you think that they're not sharing with you kind of the questions required, right? So if you had 100% of a household net worth and something that you're educating them on, whether that be home health care or long-term care insurance, or what other type of, you know, they're, like I said, the sellers of financial products, they're out there, the product exists. I mean, but they may take away from the money
I
that would
absolutely
be
have
into the IRA.
I absolutely have had that pushback from or from advisors, is because we don't have time to go into it now, but when I moved to Florida, I started sponsoring the FPA down here and quickly learned the same thing held true as it did in Wisconsin is is there's not conversation happening about aging planning and end of life and
Sure.
stuff like that. And so they're kind of just doing the bare bones, touching the bare bones. And so I circled back with several CFPs, 25 of them, that I had met through, the Wisconsin FPA. And I said, well, tell me what CareRight does, my CareRight consulting. And they're like, well, you help families with aging planning and help them sort out care options. And I'm like, okay, that's pretty close. That's pretty good. And I said, so why don't you refer? And so these are the responses I got. Well, your services cost money, and then that's that much less assets under management. There were 9 out of 25 responses like that. So that tells me that they're only looking out for the portfolio and not what the client focused need should be. So my objection to that is, of course, my services cost money, just like you get paid very well to like have once or twice a year conversation with your clients where we're like in the weeds with these families day in and day out, right?
Mm.
So while CareRight services or any other company's services cost money, it's saving your families money because if we could have worked together and prevented Marvin from prematurely going into a nursing home at $16,000 a month, don't you think that helps the assets under management and the portfolio grow? If we could have helped support Marvin at home longer than having him prematurely go into a care facility, or if you didn't have your client's Medicare insurance on the right path, you've just cost, as an advisor, you're the one that just cost your client all this money. Or if your client is daughter Sally and she doesn't take that $350,000 job promotion and she's stuck at $200,000 a year because she doesn't have enough supports in place to take care of mom and dad, you as the advisor are the ones that just jeopardized Sally's portfolio, which means your business, right? So it's really just kind of saying, I know this is like very blunt, but it seems like that's what needs to be said to disrupt the industry, to say, look, are you the one are you the one as the advisor who's costing the portfolio more money than it would if you had a collaborative team approach working with your clients?
How much of it do you think is so? I mean, I think that is very clear, meaning that,
Mhm.
there's that concern. I've heard the concern. I've heard, for example, back to the Alliance for Lifetime Income, I've actually, years prior to joining it as education fellow, the term annuicide, meaning
Yeah.
annuity, which
Yep.
has a very maybe useful function for certain households, are the advisor community doesn't want to have it because it's taking away from assets under management.
Yep.
Therefore, they put in added kludge 2 words and it becomes annuicide. But then there's another set, which is how much do you think is due to the fact that they've understood Annalee's message, that ethically or by professionally speaking, if holistically, if you will, if their goal was to state from marketing point of view, we're going to be, an advisor for your entire household net worth as an entire net worth set, optimizing it. How much do you think that it's that the advisors feel unequipped from a knowledge point of view?
Oh, for
Uh,
sure. For sure, because it is. I mean, when you look at, I mean, you know this better than I do because this is your industry, but if you just look at even the CFP criteria, none of this relationship stuff is taught in there.
mm,
And none of this like client focused stuff is taught. And so that's why we're the pioneers in trying to change that mindset of don't work in silos, because people who work in silos, they're not meeting the needs of their clients. They need to be opening up the doors. When I had circled back to the CFPs that I had a good enough relationship that I could ask these blunt questions about, why aren't you addressing their aging issues and why aren't you referring to CareRight, for example? Most of them were like, well, because you cost money. Others were like, there were several responses with, well, we only meet with our clients once every 1 or 2 years. Their financial plans on autopilot. We don't ask them anything. We just keep it on autopilot. So those are going to be more
right.
of your obviously transactional advisors, and those aren't the kind that are going to be wanting to go through a program to learn about how to not be transactional, right? And then others, when I ask them, everybody keeps saying they're holistic and comprehensive. What does that
Right.
mean? Like, what does that mean? Because as a social worker, when
It's
we
so
say it,
true.
like, we actually mean it, like holistic and
Right.
comprehensive. We're constantly looking at, okay, who else do we need to add to the team so that our client is successful? So when I asked that question, seven responses were the same. They're like, well, how much more we can upsell them, a reverse mortgage, or, long-term care insurance, or an annuity. It's how much more we can upsell and how much more we can make off of the client. And I was like, aha, that's the thing. So now when I hear holistic, I know what they're talking about. And now I can be like, okay, well, when we say holistic, we mean a different kind of word. Like, we mean something different. When we say holistic, we mean like talking about aging, dementia, end of life, having those family meetings so you can get that first or second generation on your book of business or on your caseload as well. So it's educating. And I can tell you, just under wearing my Care Right hat, people
Sure.
in general don't want to talk about aging. Like, it's so taboo, and people don't want to talk about end of life and do you have a living will and power of attorney, and financial planners are people, right? So it does take courage to go through a program, and all the students that we've had that go through the program, which there's over 200. They're like, oh, we just didn't know what we didn't know. And now they have the confidence because we've trained them and we've done some role plays. And they're also in, a monthly mastermind group where it's not like we just taught them in this 10 weeks and now it's like, good luck to you. It's like, if you want to take deeper dives, then you go into the ongoing mastermind program. And that way we can do more role plays and case studies, and they can really get the confidence that they need and that we all need when we're learning something different. Because this is very different than what most advisors are taught and what they understand as people. And most advisors who have aging parents, they're like, oh, this makes perfect sense. And
Yeah,
I can use what you're learning, or what they're learning through the Plan for Life program. They can use that with their own aging parents.
for sure. For sure. Annalee, how do people get a hold of you to learn more about your program? I guess we've got the website for sure, right? Planforlifenow.com.
Yep.
You've
And that's
got,
the number 4.
Right, plan
Otherwise,
for, right.
otherwise you're going to get a different financial planning firm's website. There's a contact. Well, because they don't know it's the number 4. It's not 4 spelled out. It's the number 4. And so we'll get, we have a contact us button on there, so you can always reach out and say, hey, I want to learn more. I heard you on this podcast, and I'd like to learn more about this elder planning specialist. What does that really look like? And it's also on the FPA's, the National FPA's website as well, but
Hmm,
for me, it's been a little tricky trying to find it on that. So,
right.
because there's so much other stuff on there, which is
There's
really
a lot
great.
of
But
stuff, right?
but if you just go to our website, then we can just work together. And if you want to enroll in the next, we're on week 9 right now in the 10-week program. So we're like almost to the end of our cohort, but we'll offer it again in the fall. So if this is of interest to you and you want to learn more about becoming an elder planning specialist and how to market yourself as that, then you'll want to go to the Plan, the number 4, lifenow.com website.
There are those modules. Do people take your course and your different weeks at their
Yep.
own pace? How does that work?
So kind of. So
Okay.
the class is Sunday. So, well, here's what we're flexible because we know that life gets busy, right?
Right.
So it's technically every week it's a new topic, and then that the week before that shuts down. So it
I see.
starts technically Sunday at midnight, um, Monday morning at midnight, and then that class content is available until Saturday night.
I see.
And so every week there's at least 2 different topics. It takes about 3 hours of time. We tell students to budget about 3 hours of time per week, because we also, one of the value propositions is not only will you better identifying the needs of your clients and have the comfort level, but also how to market yourself and how to build your elder planning team and how to really, add value to your clients. But once a week, every week during the program, we also have live group discussion where we talk about case studies, or we have that subject matter expert come back in and do a live Q&A. And the students love that. And plus, it's their way to be able to market or be able to network with each other as well.
Sure.
And then we have twice a year, we have a Pioneer Happy Hour, a virtual Pioneer Happy Hour, where we just send out the Zoom link. So the next one is in July. And that way the students who have been through the program, who want to come and get to know each other, they're more than welcome to do that. So it's not like it's not like, because I hate transactional, I just hate it's about the relationship. So that way, you know, they can develop relationships with other people that have been through the program and bounce ideas off of each other, or off of Bob and I, or Bob Powell and I as well. So it's helping them, giving them the tools they need to be the most successful at their jobs as they can be.
Annalee, thank you so much for being here with us today. Can we have you back?
Absolutely.
I've enjoyed today. Thanks again. Annalee
Thank you.
Kruger, Plan for Life with the number 4.now.com. Thank you again.
Thank you.